As Point Loma Nazarene celebrates 120 years as an institution, what we know as Point Loma Athletics has changed over the course of 75 years, spanning thousands of student athletes, hundreds of coaches, and a couple of beautiful campuses. On this edition of Loma Talks, we are talking everything Point Loma Athletics. I'm Assistant Athletic Director for Communications, Tim Slack. Joining me today, Athletic Director Ethan Hamilton. Boy, we couldn't have picked a tougher day to do this, right?
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful setting, and really excited get to do it here on our new women's golf facility that they get to practice on. And so, yeah, setting overlooking Carol B. Land Field couldn't be better, and I love talking Point Loma Athletics, so let's do it.
Well, we're excited to talk a little bit about the past, the foundation that has been laid before us, also what some of the present challenges have entailed, and then what we hope to build for the future. But you have seen this place from all sorts of angles as an alum, as a coach, now as the athletic director. What drives your passion and your love for Point Loma?
Yeah, this is a special place. You know, having gone to school here means something to me, and there's a sense of pride that's powerful. I think first and foremost, though, it's the people. You know, some people that made a profound difference in my life, and I would like to say helped kind of form who I am. You know, and then there's a great sense of history and tradition that's here. And so, you know, even for me in deciding to come back and eventually become athletic director, I think I saw this changing landscape in higher education and college athletics, and getting to be a part of something special and building on that foundation and the potential that is here and was here when I made that decision has just been exciting. And so for me, there's an ability here to do something really excellent. And with our student athletes, I think there's an opportunity here at Point Loma, probably unlike a lot of places, but we can do the academic part well, we can do the athletic part well, and we can do the spiritual part well too, and just helping young people grow. We're not perfect, but I do think we're doing a good job, and I think that's something we're striving for, is to continue to do a good job in just helping young people grow and prepare them for life after college.
Well, absolutely. And you talked about some of those people and just the long list of the history of those people. And maybe one of those seminal moments early on in the history of then Pasadena College was a group known as the Firehouse Five. Yeah. What sort of emotions does that name and that group evoke?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think they were probably one of the first landmark achievements, accomplishments, groups that was recognized at Pasadena College at the time. Not only made an impact regionally, you know, and often recognized in the likes of SC and UCLA, and oftentimes even more than that. But it just was a group and a men's basketball team that excelled and did it really well, and kind of put Pasadena College on the map with athletics. I know they won like 31 games in a row and had a 139-point game and beaten San Diego States and Long Beach States and all those schools. And so for me, that was kind of a kickoff to a tradition that's been really special at Pasadena/Point Loma.
That 139 points, still a mark that stands today, but those teams in the early 50s, 1952, 1953, and 1954, but in 1953, another person was actually just making their name in the world of athletics, and that was Carol B. Land. We know him as a coach, a longtime athletic director, but he played here during that time. And you had the opportunity to coach under him as athletic director. Obviously, we lost him this past December, but he was a guy who literally has his fingerprints all over this campus. What was the significance of Coach Land to you?
Yeah, in more than one way, too. I just think he made a mark on this campus, and I think, first of all, for me personally, was a mentor. He's really a legend, you know, in the athletic administration world, in the baseball world. Yeah, he was really special to me. Taught me a ton, and so I think he just had really fought these last few years so hard, just with the same passion that he had for Point Loma. And you're right. I think he left an imprint, not only and most importantly on the lives of people, but I mean, you could just look around every part of these athletic facilities, and there was a role he played in that, and some of it with his own two hands, putting things together. And so had a much stronger skill set than I do in a lot of those areas, but I just a special person, and so continue and pray for his family and Barbara and Cherie and Brian, son and daughter, and just thankful for everything he's done for me and my family personally, and even me bringing me back here to Point Loma. So super special, and I want to make sure that we don't let that legacy slip away. There's some things that we're going to continue to do to honor and recognize him. We're going to add some additional branding out here to the baseball field that already has his name on it. We're going to do some kind of unique 36-second moments of silence in honor of the number that he wore when he coached. We're going to add a CBL patch to the shoulders of our baseball jerseys here, and gonna name another award. We do some end of the year awards ceremonies called our Slam Awards, and we have a leadership award that we're going to recognize one student athlete in his name. Just a million possible tokens of appreciation, the most we can do. But I just want people to remember the heart and passion he had for this place. But beyond the place, again, one of the things I start with is just the people that are here. He had such a heart for young people. I know he feels there wasn't a greater calling in the world to be, at a place of Christian higher education and working with young people and student athletes. And so we want to continue to try to do that really well in his name.
Well, and you think about the impact. You talked about the Firehouse Five and then him, and then he was athletic director up until you were named athletic director in the late 2000s. And that span, right, you're talking a 60-year span from that time that those important people played a role in the campus. And that was also coinciding with the time that Point Loma was in the NAIA and had a lot of success. But then Point Loma Athletics shifted in the late 2000s, the early teens, and make the transition to NCAA Division II and in the Pac West. You were part of that transition. What was some of the tougher challenges, and how was that transition to get to where we are today?
Yeah, great question. There was just a lot shifting at that time, kind of in the whole college athletic landscape, specifically in the NAI, and then our conference at the time, the Golden State Athletic Conference, the GSAC, which we were a founding member of. And so that wasn't something we took lightly. I felt there was a loyalty to the GSAC and the NAI, probably even more so to the GSAC, but we were having some changes. There were some schools that were leaving the GSAC to apply for Division II membership and to join that Pac West conference. And so one way or another, things were changing. And I'm super appreciative that our board of trustees, our cabinet, President Brower, were willing to address that difficult decision and try to make a proactive decision, looking far out of, what's the best thing for us a decade from now or a couple decades from now. It may be tough in the transition, and you mentioned that word, but we made a decision to go for it, and I'm thankful for that. I think there was even some opportunities where we had some programs that were able to kind of reset things and kind of relaunch how we wanted to do things, and maybe dive a little deeper and staying true to who we were as an institution. And ultimately, I think we desired to have kind of a model athletics program at the small college level. And where could that be done better? Was that in the NAI or was that in the NCAA Division II? And for us, we landed with a decision and vote to move in that direction. And so I really do think, especially looking back now, that process really made us better.
Well, and you look at it, and there's so many of those schools, like you mentioned, the GSAC, that are now part of the Pac West, that are part of, that Southern California rivalry, and you have so many of those renewed. But still, you measure it by some of those accomplishments and what you're able to achieve. How do you feel like some of those quantitative things in terms of accomplishments have kind of played out over the last few years?
Yeah, I think real well. And obviously we're still growing and want to continue to get better at everything we do. I think that's part of what, college and higher education is about, is growth. I'm proud. I'm super proud of our coaches, our staff, our student athletes, the rest of this campus community that's gotten on board with that. And again, I started with that. Point Loma's a special place, and I really had high expectations that we could do it all well. And when I say all, I'm probably looking at 3 specific areas, but I think we can do athletics well. I think we can do academics well. And then I also think we can really help young people grow, and I mean spiritually. And I think we've done that well. And again, used it before. We're not perfect, but I really think there's been some amazing strides, and maybe we'll get to talk about that a little bit more, and just helping young people and student athletes grow and blossom and become well-rounded people. And so we've had a good amount of success academically, athletically, and then in the spiritual area, just seeing some awesome growth and some awesome stories of kind of life transformation that's occurred while they're here as well.
Well, and we know that foundation affects so many people, probably many of you who are watching, and a lot of people who have been a part of that over the last 75 years. But that is the foundation that we're talking about. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Point Loma athletics in the present, how we've overcome some of the challenges that the last couple of years have presented, and then we'll take a look at what's next for Point Loma athletics. That's all on Loma Talks, this edition taken up by Point Loma athletics right after this.
My experience at Loma as a student athlete has been a positive one, to say the least. I've just been able to connect with so many of the girls on my team and also other athletes on other sports teams, and just been able to really feel confident when I walk away from Loma, and just knowing that I'll have friendships and a great environment to look back on, and just awesome times.
My experience at PLNU has been great as a transfer student. Coming in, everyone was super welcoming, and it was a smooth and easy transfer, especially during COVID. My favorite memories from PLNU as a student athlete have to be probably our morning and afternoon lifts, just overlooking the ocean, and just the great sunrises and sunsets while you're lifting. It's awesome. Something continued at PLNU for student athletes that I'd like to see is just the great support of the school as a whole, and all the fans coming out and supporting the teams.
So my experience as a student athlete has been super fun and rewarding and inspiring, and this is an awesome community to be a part of. A favorite memory that I have from just competition and being in sport here would be my conference track meet my sophomore year, where we had a race with 3 of the seniors in it, and it was super inspiring and emotional and incredible.
My overall experience as a Point Loma student athlete has been a very positive one. Got to meet some great friends. Got to get to know some great places when we would travel with Point Loma, like Hawaii, for example, and got to play in one of the most beautiful soccer fields in the world. So has overall been very, very positive. Also stressful at times with managing classes and playing and all that, but overall it's been a good one. My favorite memory as a Point Loma athlete has definitely been my freshman year when we made it to playoffs with the soccer team. It was the first time that Point Loma had ever made it to playoffs, so it was just amazing to be part of that historic moment, I guess. And we also got a chance to host one of the games, so it was amazing. The stadium was packed, everyone was there. Just it was a really, really cool experience to be a part of, making history, I guess, in that sense.
I've had a really positive experience being a student athlete at Point Loma. I've had really great professors that have been there to support me when we're traveling, and then just a really great community within my team, getting to experience different places and just grow together. One of my favorite memories I have is my sophomore year. We played at UCSD, and we just had a really great environment. A lot of people from school were able to come, and the game was super intense, so that's just probably one of my favorite memories.
Welcome back to Loma Talks as we continue on this edition talking about Point Loma Athletics. I'm Tim Slack along with Ethan Hamilton, the Point Loma Athletic Director. And you were mentioning a bunch about the foundation and how the heart of Point Loma Athletics is to help blossom the student athlete and create this well-rounded environment. We talked about some of the people who have kind of set that example in the past, but talking about what has gone on the last couple of years, all that foundation, I don't think anybody could have been prepared for the challenges of the past few years. But Point Loma student athletes on the court, on the diamond, on the pitch, on the track, they exceeded that standard athletically. How do you feel like the Point Loma student athletes were able to rise to, and the teams rise to that occasion?
Yeah, a lot of pride for sure. I don't think COVID has been easy for anybody. Obviously, there's been a lot of situations that are extremely sad throughout the country and world, and so don't want to minimize that. But at the same time, we're trying to live through that and still trying to participate and compete. And I think that's been healthy from a mental standpoint. Even just seeing some good data and numbers of when student athletes were able to get back and involved in their sport and be around their teams, how healthy that was. If they weren't adaptable before or didn't have flexibility in their lives, they probably had to learn that pretty quickly. I know that even for me personally, that doesn't always come easily, but there's been a lot of adapting. And so my hat has been off to them from the get-go. We've had to cancel contests and change contests, and we've had different protocols that have changed from the NCAA and county, and those things happen. But to me, a little bit of that is symbolic of just athletics in general. In athletics, they're always dealing with adversity. And so how are you going to overcome that adversity? And so I think in the midst of that, I'm really proud of our student athletes. I could even just look at this year alone. We had our women's soccer team who won their 4th consecutive conference championship. I think they even had a 34 unbeaten match streak, which is just amazing. Just great seasons across the board in the fall. We've had some really cool accomplishments by some of our coaches who kind of hit some milestones this fall. We had our women's volleyball coach, John Scott, won his 100th game. Same with Christy Kiley, our women's soccer coach. Our men's soccer coach won 200 games. And if you even look at the soccer world too, they usually only play 15 to 20 matches a year. So getting to some of those thresholds, and even men's soccer, I think had a 400 consecutive minute stretch where they didn't allow a goal. There's just some exciting things still happening. And just again, I think there's a sense of pride in our student athletes' ability to be really resilient through a lot of that stuff. And we kind of joke that was just the fall.
Right.
Even recently here, we had Coach Charity Elliott. She won her 300th game. What a massive accomplishment that is. And so I think a lot of that's just been fun. And so we've kind of grown the list of NC2A All-Americans we've had. The academic honors, the regional, the conference numbers just continue to grow. And we even have a bunch of student athletes that are closing in on some of the top 10 school records, which is amazing when you look at the legacy and tradition of Point Loma Athletics and what everybody before them has accomplished. To have student athletes making their own individual marks, pretty awesome. And so I think it's been a challenging couple years in a lot of ways, but it's still been a lot of fun. And it has been so much fun, honestly, to get back to competition. Yeah. We even tease often in the athletic office, sometimes the rougher days, you at least get the enjoyment of competition, which we didn't have for a little while. And so getting back to that was fun. And I think a perfect example of that is when we finally got to have students back indoors at a contest, and we were able to kick this year off and kind of set the tone for the basketball seasons with our men's basketball team was able to play Pepperdine and beat a good Division I program at home, which first of all, you just rarely ever get a Division I team to come to your place, but to beat them and play really well. But I think the fun part for me was just having fans back, having the excitement, having that Point Loma family together again, that sense of community, seeing people jumping up and down and all around. It was so much fun, and I think that's continued through the fall and winter. And so obviously continue to build on that and the excitement of that.
Well, and that community, you look at just the impact that the coaches have had in steering the atmosphere, and you talk about people coming out and just what a fantastic experience that was, and atmosphere it was, and yet these coaches have had to battle that too a little bit, and it's amazing to see those milestones still happening in the midst of no fans, and yet we still have that incredible, unique environment that we've had.
Yeah, I kind of go back again. This is a special place. That's not happening everywhere, and really appreciate the university's willingness to allow us to do some of those things. And I think every day we're trying to figure out new ways to be creative, even still with some of the challenges that are in our midst of maximizing. Again, we talk about this student athlete experience, and some of it's on that athletic end and on the courts and fields, and we've been able to do really well in spite of that. And again, I just couldn't speak more highly of our student athletes and that resilience.
Well, it's easy because they're just spending all their time on the courts and on the field. Oh, wait, no, they have to go to class too.
It's true.
And yet, in the midst of these accomplishments that you're talking about and these record breakers and record holders that we've had, they're still excelling in the classroom, and they're getting marks nationally for what they're doing academically.
Yeah, I honestly don't think we get enough credit for that. And I'm not saying any one particular group's holding that against us, but one of the things we've been recognized for is 8 consecutive years with the President's Award of Academic Excellence. Like, a lot of people don't understand what that means. It's a lot of words to put together there, but essentially it's 8 years in a row that our student athletes have had a graduation rate. In NCAA Division II, they call it academic success rate, but 8 years in a row that's been at 90% or higher. And there's just a handful of us in the country that can lay claim to doing that for that long a stretch. I think it's 3 or 4 schools. We've had a few years where we've had the top academic success rate in the country, but 8 years in a row of 90% or better, which has allowed us to achieve that award. I mean, that is massive. If we say that, what college athletics is about and helping young people graduate, we're doing that. And again, I give a ton of credit to our student athletes on that, the coaches that are student athletes, and then the ability too that our faculty and resources from our staff are helping young people in an area that matters. Another thing I'd be really proud of on the academic end, last year was the highest GPA that our athletic department has ever had. So when I'm saying athletic department, I'm not peeling out one sport. This is the entire athletic department. Our student athletes GPA was over 3.5. I mean, that's phenomenal. Often I think at certain institutions or certain places, athletes get kind of a bad rap for not the student athlete part, but truly again here, they're showing that they're capable. And it is so fun to hear from professors of like, no, that's one of the rock stars in my classroom is they're doing extremely well. I think another underrated area is the amount of times that we get feedback from local companies and different businesses that have such a desire to hire our student athletes. And I think obviously this place speaks for itself and the reputation academically, but I think the athletes are also managing other things. They're also managing kind of the time management and the ability to do teamwork well. I think they're competitive, and so there's a desire to do well in their profession and jobs. And so it is honestly a weekly thing that we get calls saying, hey, do you have any student athletes that are looking for work, and can we interview, or can we get in front of them, and all those different things. So really proud in that whole academic area of the success. And again, I'll use that word resilience, especially in the last couple of years with unevenness with how class stuff has gone. We've all dealt with the Zoom burnout and everything else, and yet they're still thriving.
Never Zoom burnout, just always thriving.
Yeah.
But you talk about that and just the list of things, right? Coaches have their demands on the student athletes, and then the academic rigor that PLNU asks of the students in the classroom. And then you talk about some of these kids have jobs and work and help pay for that as well. But we're talking about that well-rounded student athlete, and there's multiple sides to it. And the other side maybe doesn't have the quantitative aspect to it, and that's the spiritual side. How do you track that element and how we are being successful in that area?
Yeah, good point. You know, I think it is sometimes a difficult part to track. We have tried to do that a little bit. Our conference actually recognizes and gives a community engagement award for the most hours that student athletes are spending in the community. And what a lot of people don't know is we don't have as many student athletes as some of these other schools we compete with, yet we routinely are serving more hours than these schools with more student athletes. You know, on average, roughly, you know, especially pre-COVID, we're, you know, 400 plus hours in the community. And I think it's one of the things that I'm proud of just as much as those other things. But a little bit for me is that's just, you know, that's who we are, you know. So to me, when you look at that spiritual piece, which is really, really important to me, and that growth that's occurring, but I think getting out in the community is one small piece of that. But that's massive to me. You know, that's a piece of that. That's just who we are. I think our programs do a good job, and really want to give them some autonomy to be creative. So, you know, I think each team does something different, you know, has different ministries that they're attached to. Maybe there's a personal cause within a team, and so they're more involved in one thing or another. But, you know, it's fun to hear different things that are going on with different teams, even in weekly devotions or, just different core values that they may have. And I really encourage that. You know, I want to still do some stuff collectively. We do some things with Fellowship of Christian Athletes where we bring in some special speakers a couple times a year. But a lot of that's driven by teams or just their involvement on campus in different campus ministries. We really try to make sure they have enough freed up time to that. But then again, I still want to have a theme collectively too. You know, one of the things when we joined the NCAs, they have an attachment to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and we got real involved in that in the first few years in that transition. But you know, it's really interesting. We started hearing and getting some feedback from our Student Athlete Advisory Committee. We call it our SALT group, which is kind of a fun name and play on words for several different things, not only the salt and light, but based on where we're at. But that student athlete leadership team has kind of taken off and kind of switched gears. So we're doing less necessarily with the Make-A-Wish and have formed and done more with the San Diego Rescue Mission here, with a focus here on San Diego and the homelessness issue. Have latched on to the San Diego Rescue Mission and been a part of some of their opportunities to make a difference in our community. And for me, again, I want, you know, to listen to the heart of these student athletes and the causes they may have, and something like that to make it a little more personal and local has been awesome. And so that's been a great thing these last few years.
I want to say the pride in knowing the workload that is demanded of the student athletes as a student and as an athlete, and yet their passion to still be connected as teammates and serve their community. I think the fact that can be on display and just help out the area is something that's exciting as well.
Yeah, I'm proud of them. I think they're choosing Point Loma for more than just the athletics and more than the academics. I hope so. You know, so I've always said I think we're getting a pretty mature student athlete, you know, who wants to grow in multiple areas of their lives, and this is coming out. You know, they are making time. Coaches are making time to do more. And again, you know, the service side is one part of that piece. But again, I think it's kind of who our student athletes are called to be, and to be out there and doing more than just being an athlete or just being a student.
And you touched on it, but each team kind of has its unique take on it or unique involvement as well.
They do. And I think that's something we want to continue to do moving forward. There'll be some thematic things from, you know, that the entire department's doing. But I want to listen to the kind of heartstrings of each individual team too, of where they can make a difference.
And what their passion is. And that certainly gives you a glimpse at what our heart has been over the last couple of years and how Point Loma Athletics has adapted to the challenges recently. Coming up, we're going to talk about what's next. What's the future of Point Loma Athletics? All that right here on Loma Talks.
In my experience as a student athlete has been super amazing. I would say that I really didn't expect to make the friendships and relationships that I have with my teammates now, and I'm really grateful that I've been given this opportunity to be here and to travel to different places and just have a lot of fun as a golfer. And my favorite memory as a Point Loma student athlete would be when we went to Hawaii for our Pac-West Conference Championship, and we actually got to take home the trophy, which was really exciting because that was the first time in school history that the women's golf team has won a Pac-West championship. So that was super exciting, and obviously it was Hawaii, so we got to go to the beach and play golf, which was really fun.
My experience at Point Loma has been amazing. Honestly, it wasn't one of my first options coming out of high school, but God really slammed some doors shut and opened some doors, and ended up coming to Point Loma not really knowing what to expect. And I can fully say that the last 4 years has definitely changed my life. From the people I've met, from the professors that I've met, being in San Diego, all of it. It was such a school with just so many people that are so caring and so loving, and had so many lifelong relationships built at Point Loma. So I think, yeah, God just opened some doors and has definitely changed my life throughout these last 4 years. I think one of my favorite memories from the last 4 years of athletics, I gotta say, this team that we have this year, we've had so many memories together. Our team just gels like I've never been a part of, and it's so fun just to show up to the ballpark every day and just be with all those clowns. It makes practice fun, it makes baseball fun, it just makes the whole experience so much more special just to have a team that clicks with each other like we do.
My experience as a student athlete at the school has honestly been amazing. Like, the whole community is very welcoming, and I have so many coaches and trainers that I know at any point I can turn to and or go to their office and talk to them, or just reach out to them and they'll set up a meeting for me about anything from just whether it's track, school, or just life.
My time as a student athlete at Point Loma has definitely had its challenges, but I do believe that it's been even more rewarding. It's been an honor and a blessing to represent Point Loma the way that I have, both in the classroom and on the court over the past 5 years. I've grown so much as a person and as an athlete, and I have nothing but appreciation for faculty, my professors, my peers, and just the overall community. One area that I've definitely grown in during my time at Point Loma is simply being able to realize how I can use my God-given abilities to serve those around me.
My experience at Point Loma as a student athlete has been so good. I love the community of people and just the school in general. Outside of athletics, it's just the people are good. There's just a really strong sense of community here, and so my experience here has been really great. Being a student athlete is also way awesome too. Being a part of a team, being competitive with girls you're with, like career sisters. So my experience has been really good.
Welcome back to the athletics version of Loma Talk. Tim Slack and Point Loma Athletic Director Ethan Hamilton. And we spent some time today talking about the foundation of Point Loma Athletics, as well as what our student athletes and coaches and teams have been accomplishing over the last couple of years. But I'm sure there's people who want to know, what's next? How can I get involved? And we've talked about a lot of things that our student athletes have done, but there's still some more ground to be covered. What is that next athletics goal that we're looking towards?
Yeah, I think you're always looking to grow, and always want to do things better. Kind of go back to even our mission statement, and wanting to provide the best student athlete experience possible. And again, that's in 3 different areas that we talked about that we're continuing to focus on. But from an athletics standpoint, I'll start there. One of the things that because there are some measurables that we measure in our conference is what's called the Commissioner's Cup. And so that looks at each one of your athletic programs and the conference standings that they finish in. And applies a point system to that, and the one with the most points wins that Commissioner's Cup. And we've been close a couple times, but I think one of the things I like about it is it recognizes, no, you just don't have one good program or one program that had a good season. For you to win that Commissioner's Cup, you need to do it kind of the breadth of your athletic program. And so, and I hope people would say that about us. I mean, we truly do care about all of our athletic programs, and we're trying to do a better job funding them and looking at resources and everything else, but we want to do them all well. There isn't, we don't tier sports or focus on some more than the others. We want to do them all well. And so winning that Commissioner's Cup would be a fun thing.
Well, I think that is a great example of excellence through all things, right? Not just in the individual student athletes, but across programs. Academically, that can be challenging when you talk about athletically. That requires everybody being good kind of at the same time to win that Commissioner's Cup, right?
Sure, yeah, no, I think, and I think that's something, it's not like win it one time and then you're done. I think our goal would be, always kind of in that top 2 or 3. And then there is probably some luck or some certain things that need to break the right way at the right time. But I would hope that could be a continual thing, that we're just always right there at the top.
Sure, and I think, on that athletic side, right, that there's a quantitative thing. How do you kind of pull that to the academic side and sustain maybe some of that success?
Yeah, I think, the conference does something similar with the best department GPA in the conference. We've won that before. I think it'd be even kind of fun to win the Commissioner's Athletic Cup on one side and the academic highest GPA in our conference that same year. I mean, that would kind of be a cool thing. But I think that's just kind of an ongoing thing. Can we continue the streak of winning that President's Academic Award of Excellence? Continuing to push that threshold of over 90% of our student athletes that are graduating. I think some of that is we got to make sure that we're continuing to provide resources to be able to do that for our student athletes and continuing to work well with them, with faculty. Another thing that I just think is we need to be able to continue to attract and recruit quality student athletes that can kind of push this holistic belief that we have. And that's one of the fun things for me is our coaches really buy into that. It's not because of there's just certain standards here, but that's what they want on their teams.
And I hear listeners or viewers saying, have your cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
And there is some idea to that. There's some truth to that. But we've talked earlier about quantifying that spiritual aspect. And when you look at that part moving forward, how do you look at the athletics portion of it in terms of the program changing over time?
Yeah, I think one of the unique things is we have a whole new group of student athletes every year. And hopefully they're here 4 years or whatever course of time they're here and graduate and move on. But I think part of that is we're recognizing that every single student athlete we come in contact with is probably in a different place in their own walk, and in their spiritual journey. We want to be able to meet them where they're at, and engage where their heart is. And so to me, that never changes, and as we meet future student athletes where they're at and just help them grow, and so if we have someone that's in one place when they get here as a student athlete and maybe a non-believer or new to, any kind of faith component, and to see them leave here and really grown in that area, or someone that's just grown up in a really strong Christian home, we still want to see them make strides and develop routines in their life that they can use for the rest of their lives and prepare them to be husbands and fathers or wives and moms as best as we possibly can.
Pretty cool to see both the individual journey and then those teams' journeys together as well, right?
Without a doubt.
So probably a lot of people wondering, right? Okay, that's great. There's a clear vision. There's a lot going on right now with Point Loma Athletics, but certain people want to be involved. How do they get involved, and how do they become a part of what we're doing?
Yeah, great question. I think at the most basic level, follow us. I think nowadays it's probably easier than ever to follow things that you're interested in or that you want to support. And so, I say join us on social media, on the Facebook and Instagrams and Twitters of the world. We have all kinds of email distribution lists that are full of information that are really set up for people to get involved. It's for alums, it's for fans, it's for friends and family members of our student athletes. And so that would be the most basic way and the first way. The next would be even, a step further is get engaged. I think there's nothing, I hear it all the time from our student athletes, there's nothing they love more than competing in front of fans. For example, we're hosting the conference track and field meet here in a couple months. There'd be nothing more than they love for you to don your green and gold and come and support them at that final meet of the year. Come out to a sporting event. We have 11 different sports. Pick one that may interest you or your family and come support them. There again, I think student athletes just love having fans and people support them.
Brave the elements. It's really tough.
Yeah, come on a day like today and make sure you get some sunblock on and you'll be good to go. Yeah, and then I think the third thing is support us. We can always use help financially. We have a Loma Athletic Fund that is a way to get engaged. We're in the midst right now of developing a campus master plan for all of our facilities that'll involve athletics, and we'll probably be asking and tapping on people to help support that. Because as beautiful as the view and the settings are, we do have some facilities, especially as you look around a fitness center and weight room complex for athletes in the student body, and locker rooms, and some of those, if you're a former athlete, you know exactly what I'm talking about, just the need for some space and some improvements that way. And so, yeah, I think there's going to be opportunities. There's opportunities now for some of those things in that development of our student athletes, but even more grand things that are coming. So stay tuned on that.
What does it say? So follow, attend, support. I think that's a great trio of ways that people can feel connected, get to know these student athletes, and kind of really see what we're saying. The proof is in the pudding, so to speak, in terms of what types of people we have on campus, and these athletes are excellent, and they're great to talk to and great to get to know. And we have a lot coming up, a lot of opportunities to get to know them. Anything with this being homecoming week that is on the mind?
Yeah, I think homecoming always provides an opportunity to do each of those three things mentioned, but I think it's a great way to see some school spirit in action. I'm sensing, even the last few years more than ever, a real sense of pride in being an alum of Point Loma Nazarene University, and I want people to attach to that as much as ever. And if athletics is a venue, an opportunity for people to stay engaged, we would love to have you. And I just say that again from our student athletes, our coaches and staff. Thank you already for the support you've given. Thank you for the support, through some challenging and some transitional days. And the future's bright. I honestly think the current is bright. The current day that we're in right now is special. And I just think it's going to continue to grow and develop again, kind of back to the place that I started, just because of the people. There's special people here. It's a special place. It's an easy thing, honestly, for me to sell or communicate. It's different and special in a good way. So, thanks for the time. Thanks for the questions.
No, thank you, Ethan. I mean, it really is holistically, you look at the great setting, but getting to know the people, I think, takes it to a different level. And we hope that you get the opportunity to come out. Obviously, homecoming week. Ethan Hamilton, Point Loma Athletics, just really a special time to talk about Point Loma Athletics, and thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
That will do it for this edition of Loma Talks. Hope you will join us Saturday night for Point Loma basketball as they host Concordia. The women will tip at 6, the men at 8 o'clock, and a whole bunch of special events going on throughout the weekend, so be sure to check the calendar. On behalf of Ethan Hamilton and the entire Point Loma Athletic Department, I'm Tim Slack. Thanks so much for watching.
My experience at Point Loma as an athlete has overall been fun. I think that the teachers do a good job at accommodating to the student athletes, which is super nice because that's not everywhere. A favorite memory of mine as a Point Loma student athlete is probably the travel trips and spending time with my teammates outside of the sport I play, like just getting genuine team bonding time, whether it's in airports or in the hotels or whatever.
I feel like I've grown as a leader while being at Point Loma, and just being someone that's there for their teammates or just people in general, and I feel like that carries over into everyday life, which is something I am very thankful to have grown in.
I've had a positive experience at Point Loma so far. My favorite memory is our home opener against Pepperdine, and something I'd like to continue is our student support at all athletic events.
Overall, I've had a really great experience at PLNU as a student athlete. I'm so lucky to have the best coaches and to have met so many amazing friends through cross country and track. As a student athlete at Point Loma, I think that I've learned a lot about balance and how running should be a part of my life that I really enjoy rather than something that I have to do. And I can definitely attribute learning this to my teammates and coaches. And additionally, I feel like I've grown a lot in my faith throughout my time here because of the support of the people on my team and seeing how they live out God's word.
Hey everyone, I would describe my overall experience being a student athlete at Point Loma as simply the best time of my life, I would say, so far. Even though it's sometimes a little challenging to keep a good balance between like all the schoolwork and then your athletic performance and practices and matches on the other hand. But for me, it's just been the time I'm really grateful for, and I'm looking forward for the next 2 years. And then regarding the second question, I would say I kind of learned what it means to take responsibility. Being the captain of the tennis team for a few weeks, I learned what it means to take responsibility and to be a good role model for like the teammates. I think I really improved in this area. And last but not least, I think for the future, I kind of wish to have more support or interaction between the different teams at Point Loma. I think we already improved on this over the last semester or two, but I think there's definitely more room for improvement. And yeah, those are kind of my major thoughts on this.
My experience as a Point Loma student athlete has been amazing and definitely involved a lot of growth, both on the court and off the court, just building relationships with teammates, students, and other student athletes that have just opened my eyes to so many other views and people and just made me an overall better person and athlete.